Now, our next guest spends his days as a radio talk show host in Chicago, giving advice to the increasing numbers of Americans finding themselves out of work. But it is his unique way of looking at that dirty word unemployment that has got tongues wagging across the nation.
And he's just completed a series of free seminars all over Ireland where he has been delivering his humorous and uplifting views on how you can use this difficult period in your life to make positive changes. And Conor Cunneen joins us now. Good morning to you, Conor.
Good morning, thank you for having me.
Conor, you're probably more than aware of our current unemployment statistics, about around 14%, and I suppose long-term unemployment in Ireland is a huge problem as well at the moment. But you feel it's all down to a positive attitude.
Well, I think what happens is that the job seeker goes through a lot of pain and a lot of frustration. And one of the things that gets hit initially is their sense of self-worth and their sense of how good they feel about themselves. And one of the things you've got to have when you go into that interview is you've got to have the right attitude. I'm not saying you can have the right attitude 24 hours a day,
sure,
but you've got to have it when you've got to have it. And that's why some of the things I talk about help people who are in job search to maintain a positive attitude, particularly as they're getting ready to prepare for the interview and they go into that interview.
It is a very demoralising process, isn't it? I mean, we've all applied for jobs and gotten knockbacks.
Yeah.
But the more knockbacks you get, the more difficult it is to be upbeat and positive in an interview scenario.
It is, and see, what happens is the job seeker loses more than income. They lose a sense of self-worth, of achievement, of objectives, knowing what they're going to be doing tomorrow, etc. And all of those things, you don't realise it when you're in that paying job, but when you're out of that paying job, those are the kind of building blocks that keep you motivated. And if they're pulled away from you, you would get less and less motivated, and you get more and more depressed and frustrated, and it just becomes a vicious circle.
They've also lost their identity, Conor, in a lot of cases.
Sorry, Mark?
They've also lost their identity.
They have lost their identity. And what I try and say to people when I talk to them on this process is find ways to get back some of the disciplines and processes that you had when you were in your paid employment. So, for instance, one of the things you had when you were in your paid job, and I always refer to it as a paid job, I hate the word unemployed. I actually think the job seeker should ban that word from their vocabulary, because if they're doing the most important and most difficult job they've probably ever done in their life, which is the job search, I think they should not consider themselves to be unemployed. And also, job transition is a mind game. And if you go up to a networking group and say, "Hi, my name is Conor, I'm in job transition," it's easier to say than, "Hi, my name is Conor, I'm unemployed." And vocabulary is really important. So what I suggest to people is to try and find some ways to get back your sense of identity. It's what you're talking about, Mark. And one simple example I can give you. When I was doing a programme in the States a couple of months ago, a man came up to me after the event, and he's a coach. He coaches a kids' basketball team. And in the States, everyone refers to the coach as Coach, okay? It isn't Mark, it's Coach Mark or Coach Anna. And he said a dad came up to him, and he was feeling pretty down, but a dad came up to him and he said, "Hi, Coach, how are you doing?" It made his day, because he was being recognised for something that he was doing. And that's what the job seeker needs to do, I think. Find some way to feel active, be active in a structured way during the job search.
One of the problems we have in this country, Conor, is that people lose their jobs and they go through a whole myriad of emotions. For some, it's like it's a complete loss of identity. They're shattered by it. For others, it's like a bereavement. It's like a death in the family, etc., etc. They dust themselves up, they pick themselves up, and they go off out and try, and they get knocked back. And then gradually they stop trying, and then eventually they go home and they find a place in the coach and they park themselves there. There is nothing, even if there is nothing in terms of employment out there for them, there is nothing else for them to do. Now in the States, it's a completely different thing, because there's a culture of volunteerism in the States. There's 1,000 things you can get involved in and be employed, if not necessarily be paid for it. We don't have that here.
We don't, but why don't we, Mark? I mean, I gotta say, I didn't realise that until I went to the States, but there definitely is a huge sense of volunteerism in the States. And one of the things, when I talk, my programme is 8 building blocks to successful job transition. The acronym is SHEIFGAB, but the second letter is H, or H for help.
Well, very quickly, take us through them, and we'll put them up on the screen.
Okay, well, the first one is a structure. The job seeker loses structure initially when they go out of their paid employment, and human beings cannot survive without structure. And basically what I say is that if you're a job seeker, have something definite that you're going to do today, and have something definite that you're going to do tomorrow.
By structure, you mean a reason to get up in the morning, a place to go, something to do.
Something to do, yeah. And basically, if you you look at your calendar, you've got reasonably full for the day, with specific times for start and end. One of the ways you can do that is the H is for help. And if you go out and you help other people, volunteer, get involved in the community, you're going to hear two of the most important words you can hear in the English language.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
yeah.
you.
And the job seeker doesn't hear those very often. And one of the things the job seeker does lose is that sense of appreciation. You can hear that. E is about environment, and basically what I say there is that the job seekers tend to do the same thing in the same way, at the same time, in the same place, day after day, and they do it on their own. And if you want a recipe for depression, it's doing the same thing in the same way, at the same time, in the same place, day after day, and doing it on your own.
And repeating the same thing, it doesn't get any better.
Absolutely, yeah. And the irony of this job search process is you've over 400,000 people in job search. It's, for many of those people, it's the loneliest place in the world. And what you got to try and do is, if you change your environment, help other people, you're going to meet other people and help you with your job search mindset.
So improve
yourself. I think one of the things you can do to structure your day is to set aside some time each a day to improve yourself. Maybe it's just read a book, learn something about website design, or learn something about history or the industry that you're in, but set aside a specific time every day to improve yourself.
Okay.
If it's about family, and this is an interesting one, you know, Mark, if someone was to take your parking spot, your favourite parking spot outside, you'd go crazy.
They wouldn't dare, Conor.
They wouldn't dare, all right?
Okay. Because I get here first. They have to get up earlier than me, and nobody's prepared to do that.
You probably want to kind of scratch the car or do the tyres in, but because someone is taking something belonging to you, you kind of feel, it's natural. What happens to the job seeker is that because they used to be out of the house at 8 in the morning, they used to not come back until 7, but now when they're in job search, they spend most of their time at home. They're effectively taking parking spots at home. So when little Johnny comes home from school and wants to go on the computer that he was always able to go on, he can't do it. Someone has taken his parking spots. The more parking spots are taken at home, the more conflict. The more conflict, the more tension.
And you find yourself under people's feet.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
Goals, attitude and behaviour are the other sort of categories. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, Conor.
Right.
Now, you're doing these seminars all over the country. Are you finished doing those?
I've finished doing these. I actually did one down in Cork last week, and that came about because I was on LinkedIn, which is one of the processes I tell people to get involved with. Greg Canty from Fusion Communications connected with me, just purely as a LinkedIn. I put out a note saying I wanted to do an event in Cork. He jumped on it, and Cork Independent and Cork International Airport Hotel also gave over their time free.
Well, no, you do these pro bono. I don't know how long more you're in the country, but if people wanted to contact you to do a few more, is that possible?
I'm heading back to Chicago tomorrow, but my website is irishmanspeaks.com.
Okay.
irishmanspeaks.com. And they can contact me there, but I'd love to come back, and when I come back again, I'll be doing more of them, definitely.
Okay, listen, it's a pleasure to hear somebody talking about it in a positive way, because if we don't have that, then we're never going to get out of this.
That's right, yeah.
Do, as George Bush Sr. called it, I believe. Thank you very much, Conor.